I am Elena, 45 years old, and my husband punched me in the face, drained my bank account, and left me homeless to move his mistress into my bed. But 3 days later, I walked into his company's gala to hand his boss a folder that would send him to prison. Before I tell you about the silence that fell over that room when I took the microphone, tell me where you are watching from in the comments right now. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The crystal chandeliers of the Sterling Corporation's grand ballroom were blinding. That's the first thing I noticed. The light didn't forgive anything. It bounced off the diamond necklaces of the wives, the polished cufflinks of the executives, and it tried its best to penetrate the heavy layer of concealer I had plastered over the left side of my face. It throbbed. My cheekbone felt like it had its own heartbeat, a dull, heavy pounding that synced with the bass of the jazz band playing in the corner. I stood at the entrance, clutching a manila envelope so hard the edges were beginning to crinkle. "Invitation, ma'am?" the security guard asked. He looked at me, really looked at me. I saw his eyes dip to the swelling I couldn't completely hide. He didn't ask about it. People never do. They just look away, uncomfortable with the ugly truth standing in front of them. "My husband is the guest of honor," I said. My voice didn't shake. I was surprised by that. "Marcus Thorne. The CFO." The guard checked his list, hesitated, and then stepped aside. "Go right in, Mrs. Thorne." I stepped onto the plush red carpet. The smell of expensive perfume and roasted prime rib hit me. It was the smell of money. The smell of the life I had lived for 20 years. A life that, until 72 hours ago, I thought was real. Up on the stage, under the brightest spotlight, stood Marcus. He looked impeccable. He was wearing the custom Italian tuxedo I had picked up from the dry cleaners for him last week. His hair was perfectly gelled, his smile dazzling the crowd. He held a flute of champagne in one hand, and his other hand rested possessively on the lower back of a woman in a shimmering red dress. Tara. My stomach turned over, a physical lurch of nausea. She wasn't just standing next to him, she was leaning into him, basking in his glory. She was wearing my diamond earrings. The ones Marcus gave me for our 10th anniversary. I could see the sparkle from 50 feet away. And to my team, Marcus boomed into the microphone, his voice dripping with that charismatic charm that had fooled me for 2 decades. "To the people who support me. Loyalty is the currency of our business. Integrity is our backbone." The crowd applauded. They clapped for the man who had kicked his wife in the ribs while she was down. They cheered for the man who had stolen an orphan's inheritance to cover his own crimes. Marcus scanned the crowd, soaking in the adoration. Then, his eyes stopped. He saw me. The smile didn't drop from his face instantly. It froze. It became a mask. I saw his knuckles turn white around the stem of his champagne glass. Tara followed his gaze. Her eyes went wide, and she took a half step back, her hand flying to her throat. I didn't look away. I didn't cry. 3 days ago, I would have cried. I would have begged. But the Elena who begged died on the floor of our kitchen. Marcus recovered quickly. He leaned into the mic, excusing himself with a joke that made the crowd chuckle, and whispered something to the head of security near the stage. Then he looked directly at me. He mouthed 2 words. I didn't need to hear them to know what they were. "Get out." He raised his eyebrows, a silent threat. "You have nothing," his face said. "You are nothing." I took a step forward. Then another. The security guard Marcus had signaled started moving toward me, weaving through the tables. I knew I had about 30 seconds before I was intercepted. 30 seconds to change the narrative. 30 seconds to stop being the victim. I remembered the cold rain on my skin the night he threw me out. I remembered the way he laughed when he saw my empty bank account. I gripped the envelope tighter. Inside were 3 sheets of paper and a USB drive. It wasn't just proof of what he did to me. It was proof of what he did to them. To the people clapping for him. I bypassed the aisle the guard was coming down and cut straight through the VIP tables. "Elena?" someone whispered. It was Mrs. Sterling, the CEO's wife. She reached out a hand, her eyes locking onto my bruise. "Oh my God, dear, what happened?" "Ask him," I said, loud enough for the table to hear. I didn't stop. The guard was 10 feet away. Marcus was coming down the stairs of the stage now, abandoning his speech, his face twisted in a look of panic that he was trying desperately to disguise as concern. "Honey," he called out, his voice projecting a fake warmth that made my skin crawl. "Honey, you shouldn't be here. You're not well." He was playing the crazy wife card. I knew he would. "I'm fine, Marcus," I said. The room went quiet. The jazz band stopped playing. I've never been more lucid in my life. He reached for my arm. "Come on, let's get you to the car. You're having an episode." He grabbed me. The same spot he had grabbed me 3 nights ago. The muscle memory of fear tried to kick in, tried to make me shrink, but I locked my knees. I pulled my arm back, sharp and hard. "Don't touch me." The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. 300 people were holding their breath. I looked past him. I looked directly at Mr. Sterling, the CEO, who was standing up from his chair, frowning. "Mr. Sterling," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the silent hall. "Happy anniversary to the company." I walked past Marcus. He was too stunned to grab me again in front of witnesses. I walked right up to the CEO of the company and held out the envelope. "I think you should see this before you let him sign any more checks," I said. Marcus lunged. "Elena, don't." But it was too late. Mr. Sterling took the envelope. "To understand why I was standing in that ballroom with a bruised face, you have to go back 4 weeks. You have to understand the money. It started with a funeral. My grandmother, Nana Rose, was the only person in the world who ever truly loved me without conditions. When she passed, I felt like the anchor of my life had been cut loose. I was drifting. I sat in the lawyer's office with a tissue balled up in my hand. Marcus was sitting next to me. He was checking his watch every 3 minutes. He had an important meeting, he said. He always had an important meeting. "Elena," the executor said, sliding a check across the mahogany desk. "Your grandmother was a frugal woman. She saved everything. She wanted you to have this. She said, specifically, it was for your freedom." I looked at the number. $200,000. It wasn't millions, but to me, a housewife who hadn't earned a paycheck in 15 years because her husband insisted he'd take care of everything, it was a fortune. It was security. "That's nice," Marcus said. He didn't look at me. He looked at the check. He reached out and picked it up before I could. "We can put this into the market. I have a buddy in tech, they're about to go public. We could double this in 6 months." I felt a small prick of irritation. "Nana wanted me to keep it safe, Marcus. Maybe a savings account. Or bonds." Marcus laughed. It was a dismissive sound, like an adult explaining gravity to a toddler. "Savings accounts are for poor people, Elena. Inflation will eat that alive. Let me handle it. I'm the CFO, remember? I do this for a living." I took the check from his fingers. "I'll think about it." The drive home was silent. I could feel his anger radiating from the driver's seat. It wasn't the hot, explosive anger yet. It was the cold, simmering kind. The kind that made the air conditioner feel freezing even when it was off. That night, Tara came over for dinner. Tara was my cousin, but she was more like the little sister I never had. She was 10 years younger, beautiful, vibrant, and always struggling. I had paid her rent 3 times this year. I had bought her car. I loved her. I thought she loved me. She sat at my dining table, drinking Marcus's expensive wine, picking at the roast I had spent 3 hours cooking. So, Tara said, her eyes flashing toward Marcus and then to me. Marcus tells me Nana left you a little nest egg. It's not a nest egg, I said. It's an inheritance. Marcus says you want to let it rot in a bank account, she giggled. She put a hand on Marcus's arm. Just a light touch. Friendly. Familial. Or so I told myself. If I had a husband who was a financial genius, I'd let him turn that into a mansion. See? Marcus gestured with his fork. Even Tara gets it. Don't be stupid, Elena. We have bills. The mortgage is adjusting. The credit lines are tight. You said we were fine, I said, putting my fork down. You just bought a new Porsche last month. You said the bonus covered it. Marcus's jaw tightened. A vein pulsed in his temple. Cash flow is different from assets, Elena. God, you don't understand anything about finance. This is why I handle the money. I just want to keep it separate for now, I said quietly. For emergencies. Marcus slammed his wine glass down. Red liquid sloshed onto my white tablecloth. What emergency? He snapped. Are you planning on leaving me? Is that it? You getting a divorce fund? No, Marcus, I break my back for this family. He stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. I pay for the clothes on your back, the food in your mouth, the roof over your empty head. And you get a little bit of cash and suddenly you're Warren Buffett? He stormed out of the room. I sat there, trembling. I looked at Tara, expecting sympathy. Expecting her to say, wow, he's stressed. Instead, Tara took a sip of her wine and shrugged. He's right, you know. You're being selfish, Elena. He's under a lot of pressure at work. You should just give him the money to manage. It's the least you can do after he's supported you for so long. I felt a cold chill go down my spine. Whose side are you on? Tara smiled. It was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The winning side, Elena. Always. Over the next 2 weeks, the pressure didn't stop. It wasn't just arguments anymore. It was gaslighting. I'd find bills on the counter for things I didn't buy. Credit card statements with charges for jewelry stores I'd never entered. When I asked Marcus, he'd roll his eyes. That was your birthday present for next month, thanks for ruining the surprise, he'd say. Or, that was a business expense, I get reimbursed. Stop snooping. But he never reimbursed the account. The balances were getting lower. And he became obsessed with my phone. Why do you have a passcode? He asked one night while we were watching TV. I've always had a passcode. What are you hiding? Who are you texting? Nobody. It's just security. Change it to 1234. So I can access it if there's an emergency. No. He looked at me then. It was the first time I felt unsafe in my own home. His eyes were dark, flat. Like a shark looking at a seal. You're pushing me, Elena, he whispered. You're really pushing me. I went to the bank the next day and deposited the check into a brand new account. Just in my name. I didn't tell him. I thought I was being smart. I thought I was protecting myself. I didn't know that by doing that, I was signing a warrant for my own destruction. I didn't know that Marcus wasn't just greedy. He was desperate. He had embezzled $500,000 from Sterling Corp, and the auditors were coming in 3 days. He needed my $200,000 to cover the hole just enough to pass the inspection. He wasn't trying to invest my money. He was trying to save himself from prison. And I was the only thing standing in his way. It was a Tuesday. It was raining, one of those heavy, relentless downpours that rattle the windows. I was in the kitchen making tea. My hands were shaking. I had just received a notification on my phone, multiple failed login attempts on your banking app. He knew. The front door slammed open. The wind howled into the hallway before the door was kicked shut. Marcus walked in. He was soaking wet. His expensive suit was ruined. He smelled of scotch and ozone. He didn't take off his shoes. He tracked mud and water across the pristine hardwood floors I spent my days polishing. He walked straight into the kitchen. He didn't look at me. He walked to the fridge, opened it, grabbed a bottle of water, and chugged it. Then he turned. "You deposited the check," he said. It wasn't a question. "It's my money, Marcus. Give me your phone." "No." He laughed. A short, sharp bark of a laugh. "I need that money, Elena. Tonight. Right now." "Why?" I backed up until my hips hit the counter. "Why do you need $200,000 tonight?" "Transfer it," he yelled. The sudden volume made me jump. "Transfer it to the joint account. Now." "Tell me why." I screamed back. I had never screamed at him before. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides. He towered over me. I could smell the stale alcohol on his breath. "Because I said so. Because I am your husband. Because you owe me. I don't owe you my grandmother's legacy." He grabbed my wrist. His grip was like iron. "Unlock the phone." He reached into my pocket with his other hand. I tried to twist away. I tried to push him. "Get off me. Stop fighting me," he roared. I managed to free my hand and I slapped his chest. It was a weak, pathetic hit, born of panic. But it was enough to trigger him. His face changed. The frustration vanished, replaced by a cold, deadly focus. He pulled his arm back. I saw the fist coming. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. I tried to turn my head. Crack. The sound was louder than I expected. It sounded like a dry branch snapping. The impact exploded on my cheekbone. Light flashed behind my eyelids. White, blinding light. My legs gave out. I crumbled to the floor. I didn't feel the pain immediately. I felt the shock. The floor was cold against my cheek. My ear was ringing, a high-pitched whine that drowned out the rain. I looked up, dazed. Marcus was standing over me. He wasn't looking at me with regret. He wasn't horrified. He was looking at my hand. He knelt down, grabbed my limp hand, and pressed my thumb against the sensor of my phone that had fallen on the floor. Click. Unlock. "No," I croaked. I tried to grab the phone back. My coordination was gone. The room was spinning. He stood up, tapping furiously on the screen. He knew my banking app. He knew the interface. "Face ID required for transfer," he muttered. He looked down at me again. I was trying to push myself up on one elbow. Blood was dripping from my nose onto the white tile. He grabbed my hair, a handful of roots, and yanked my head back. I cried out. He shoved the phone in front of my face. "Open your eyes," he hissed. "Look at it." The phone scanned my face. The green checkmark appeared. Transfer initiated. He let go of my hair. My head hit the tiles again. "There," he said, tapping the final confirmation. "Done." He put the phone in his pocket. He walked over to the sink and washed his hands, as if he had just finished gardening. You hit me," I whispered. The pain was starting now. A searing, hot agony radiating from my eye socket. He turned off the faucet. He looked at me with absolute disgust. "You tripped," he said calmly. "You were drunk. You're clumsy. I'm calling the police." He laughed again. He walked out of the kitchen and came back a moment later with my large suitcase. He threw it at me. It hit my legs. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of my house. I'm filing for divorce in the morning. I'm done with your ungratefulness. I'm done with your secrets. This is my house too. Is it? He smirked. Check the deed, honey. I refinanced last year. You signed the papers without reading them. Sole ownership. You are a guest. And your tenancy is terminated. He grabbed me by the arm, hauled me to my feet, and dragged me toward the front door. I stumbled, my legs barely working. He opened the door. The rain lashed against my face, stinging the open wound on my cheek. Marcus, please, I begged. It was pathetic, but I was terrified. I have nowhere to go. It's pouring. You have 200 grand, don't you? He smiled. A cruel, twisted smile. Oh wait. No, you don't. You transferred that to cover our debts. You're penniless. He shoved me. I flew backward, landing hard on the wet concrete of the porch. The door slammed shut. The deadbolt clicked. I lay there in the rain, the water mixing with the blood on my face. I stared at the door. The home I had decorated. The home where I had planted hydrangeas. I was 45 years old. I had no job. No money. No coat. And one eye that was rapidly swelling shut. I dragged myself to the edge of the porch to get out of the direct rain. I reached into my pocket. He had thrown my phone at me before he closed the door. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped it twice. I picked it up. 12% battery. I opened the banking app. Balance, $0. He hadn't just taken the inheritance. He had drained the checking account. The savings. Everything. I sat there, shivering, hugging my knees. The pain in my face was blinding, but the pain in my chest was worse. I needed help. I needed family. I dialed the only number I knew by heart other than his. Tara. The phone rang. And rang. And rang. Come on, Tara, I whispered through chattering teeth. Pick up. Please pick up. Finally, on the last ring, she answered. Hello? Her voice sounded sleepy. Or maybe, hushed. Tara, I sobbed. Tara, it's me. You have to help me. Marcus. Marcus went crazy. He hit me. He threw me out. There was silence on the other end. Tara? Are you there? I'm outside. I'm freezing. Can you come get me? Or can I call an Uber to your place? I don't have any money in the app, but I can pay you back. Elena. She sighed. It wasn't a sigh of sympathy. It was a sigh of annoyance. You really need to stop this drama. I froze. What? Marcus just texted me, she said. He said you had a psychotic break. He said you were hitting yourself and screaming about voices. What? No. Tara, he punched me. He stole my money. He said you transferred the money to a scammer, Elena. He tried to stop you and you attacked him. That's a lie. I screamed into the phone. Tara, look at me. I've been your sister in everything but blood. I bought your car. I paid your rent. You know me. You know I'm not crazy. There was a muffled sound on her end. Like a hand over the receiver. Then a giggle. A man's voice in the background. Low. Deep. Familiar. Hang up on her, babe. She's ruining the mood. My heart stopped beating. The rain stopped existing. The pain in my face vanished, replaced by a cold, hollow numbness that spread from my chest to my fingertips. That was Marcus's voice. He wasn't in the house. Or Tara wasn't at her apartment. Tara, I whispered. Where are you? I'm at home, she stammered. Is Marcus there? No. Of course not. I heard him. I heard him tell you to hang up. Silence. Then, the pretense dropped. Her voice changed. It became harder. Sharper. Look, Elena. Let's be real. You were never good enough for him. You're boring. You're old. You just sit in that house and nag him. You're sleeping with my husband? We're in love, she said. And honestly? He needs someone who understands his ambition. Not someone who cries over a $200 grocery bill. You sat at my table. You ate my food. Yeah, and it was dry. Just like you. Tara, give me the phone. Marcus's voice came through clearly now. He must have taken it from her. Stop calling my girlfriend, Marcus said. You're harassing us. If you call again, I'll file a restraining order. Go to a shelter, Elena. That's where you belong. Click. The line went dead. I stared at the black screen of my phone. The betrayal was so complete, so absolute, that I couldn't process it. It was like being stabbed in the stomach and then watching the person twist the knife. My husband. My cousin. They were together. Probably laughing right now. Probably celebrating the money they had just stolen from me. I stood up. I don't know how, but I stood up. I walked. I didn't know where I was going. I just walked away from the house that wasn't mine. I walked until the battery on my phone died. I walked until my feet blistered in my slippers. I found a 24-hour laundromat 3 miles away. I went inside. The attendant, an older Hispanic woman, looked at me. She saw the blood. She saw the bruise that was now purple and swelling shut my left eye. She didn't ask questions. She walked to the back, got a clean towel, wet it with cold water, and handed it to me. Then she pointed to a plastic chair in the corner near the heater. Sit, she said. You stay here tonight. I don't see nothing. I sat. I pressed the cold towel to my face. And for the first time that night, I cried. I didn't cry for the marriage. I cried for the stupidity. I cried for the woman I used to be, the trusting, naive, foolish woman who thought love was enough protection. By the time the sun came up, I had no tears left. The woman who walked out of that laundromat was different. She was hollowed out. But inside that hollow space, something else was starting to burn. It wasn't sadness. It was rage. Cold, calculating rage. I had no money. But I had a memory. I walked 2 more miles to the downtown district. I ignored the stares of people on their way to work. I looked like a vagrant. My hair was matted, my clothes were dried with mud stains, and my face looked like a prize fighter's who lost the bout. I found the building. A brick walk-up with a brass plaque that hadn't been polished in a decade, Arthur Henderson, attorney at law. Arthur was my father's friend. He was old school. He didn't have a website. He didn't have a paralegal. He had a room full of filing cabinets and a mind like a steel trap. I buzzed the intercom. Delivery? His gravelly voice crackled. No, Arthur. It's Elena. Elena Vance. I used my maiden name. It felt right. The buzzer sounded immediately. When I walked into his office, Arthur dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, brown liquid splashing over his loafers. Dear God, he whispered. He rushed around his desk. Elena? Who did this? Was it him? Was it Marcus? I nodded. He took everything, Arthur. The inheritance. The accounts. The house. Arthur helped me into a leather chair that smelled of tobacco and old books. He got a first aid kit from his drawer and started cleaning the cut on my cheek with shaking hands. I need to call the police, he said, reaching for his landline. No, I said, grabbing his wrist. Not yet. Elena, this is assault. This is grand larceny. If I call the police now, he gets arrested for domestic battery. He bails out in 2 hours. He hires a shark lawyer. He hides the money. He spins the story that I'm crazy. He's already telling people I'm having a psychotic break. Arthur paused. He looked at me, seeing the steel behind the bruise. So what do you want to do? I want to destroy him, I said. I want to take his career, his reputation, his freedom. I want him to have nothing. Arthur sat back. A slow, grim smile appeared on his face. Okay. Let's get to work. We spent the next 12 hours in that office. Arthur ordered pizza. I ate 3 slices in 2 minutes. He thinks he's smart, I said, logging into Arthur's computer. But he's lazy. He never changed the family cloud password because he thinks I'm too stupid to know how to use it. I logged in. My hands flew across the keyboard. Photos, notes, backups. What are we looking for? Arthur asked. Marcus needed $200,000 immediately. Why? He makes $300,000 a year. We don't live that extravagantly. Where is the money going? I started digging into the deleted items folder. Marcus deleted emails, but he didn't empty the trash. I found it. An email chain with a man named Vinny. Betting slips. Online gambling. He has a gambling problem? Arthur asked. Worse, I said. I opened a spreadsheet attached to an email he had sent to himself. It was a ledger. A shadow ledger. Look at this, I pointed to the screen. These aren't gambling debts. These are shell companies. Consultancies. He's billing Sterling Corp for services that don't exist. Arthur put on his reading glasses. He leaned in. He's embezzling. He's funneling corporate money into his own pockets. And look at the dates, I traced a line. He took $500,000 out 3 months ago. Probably to cover a bad bet or a failed investment. But the annual audit is this week. He was short, Arthur realized. He needed to put the money back before the auditors saw the hole. That's why he needed my inheritance, I said. He didn't steal it to keep it. He stole it to plug the leak. He used my grandmother's money to cover up his crime. Arthur sat back, whistling low. This is federal, Elena. This is wire fraud. Embezzlement. This is 10 to 15 years in prison. We have the records, I said. But it's just a spreadsheet. He could say I forged it. He could say I hacked his computer and planted it. We need a confession, Arthur said. Or undeniable proof that he controls these accounts. I can get it, I said. How? You can't go back there. He has a restraining order pending. I have a right to retrieve my personal belongings, I said. Civil standby. If I go with a police escort, he has to let me in to get my clothes and medicines. That's dangerous, Elena. I know, I said. But he's arrogant. He thinks he's one. He thinks I'm a battered, broken woman coming to collect her underwear. I looked at Arthur. Do you still have those spy cameras? The ones you used for that infidelity case last year? Arthur opened a drawer. He pulled out a device that looked exactly like a black button. And another that looked like a USB charger. I need to get back inside, I said. Just for 10 minutes. The police officer was young and looked bored. You have 15 minutes, ma'am. Grab your essentials. Keep it civil. I'll stay by the door. I nodded. I stood on the porch of my own house. My hand trembled as I put the key in the lock. I opened the door. Marcus was sitting on the sofa. Tara was there too. She was wearing my silk robe. The peach one I bought for my honeymoon. Seeing her in my clothes was a visceral violation. It felt like she was wearing my skin. Well, look who the cat dragged in, Marcus drawled. He didn't stand up. He looked at the officer behind me, then back at me with a smirk. Make it quick. The air smells better when you're not here. I kept my head down. I played the part. The broken wife. The victim. I just need my clothes, I whispered. And my medication. Upstairs, he waved a hand dismissively. Guest room. I moved your trash out of the master. I walked past them. Tara giggled as I passed. Don't take the silver, Elena. I went upstairs. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I could hear the police officer talking into his radio downstairs near the entryway. I went into the study first. Not the guest room. Hey! Marcus shouted from downstairs. Where are you going? My medication is in the desk drawer. I called back, my voice cracking perfectly. I entered the study. His laptop was open. Of course it was. He was so arrogant. I pulled the USB charger camera from my pocket. I plugged it into the outlet directly behind his desk, facing the chair. It started recording immediately. A tiny, imperceptible blue light flashed once, then went dark. Then I took the button camera. I stuck it into the foliage of the ficus plant in the corner, angling it toward the safe. I grabbed a bottle of aspirin from the drawer just as Marcus appeared in the doorway. What are you doing? He demanded. I flinched. I let him see the fear. Just the aspirin. My head hurts. He looked at me with contempt. Get your clothes and get out. Marcus, I said, pausing. I needed him to talk. I needed sound bites for the recording that was already running. Why did you do it? The money. Nana's money. Why? He stepped into the room. He stepped right into the frame of the charger camera. Because I needed it more than you did, he sneered. And because I could. What are you going to do, Elena? Sue me? With what money? I own the lawyers. I own this town. You stole it. I reallocated family assets, he mocked. Now hurry up. I went to the guest room. I threw clothes into a bag haphazardly. I grabbed my jewelry box, it was empty. Tara had already raided it. I walked back downstairs. Tara was inspecting her nails. Bye, Elena, she said without looking up. Good luck with whatever you're doing. I stopped at the door. The police officer opened it for me. I looked back at them one last time. Marcus in his suit, Tara in my robe. The king and queen of a stolen kingdom. Goodbye, Marcus, I said softly. He didn't answer. He just took a sip of his scotch. I walked out. As I sat in the back of Arthur's car down the street, I opened the app on the tablet Arthur had given me. The feed connected. I saw the study in high definition. I saw Marcus walk in, sit down at his desk, and pick up the phone. Yeah, Vinny, Marcus said, his voice crystal clear through the hidden microphone. Yeah, the transfer cleared. The hole is plugged. The auditors won't find a thing. Yeah, I used the wife's inheritance. Dumb bitch didn't even know what hit her. I watched the screen. I pressed the record button. Gotcha, I whispered. We have enough, Arthur said, his eyes wide. No, I said, watching Marcus lean back and laugh on the screen. We have enough for the police. But for what I want to do? I need an audience. The gala, Arthur said. It's tomorrow night. Exactly, I said. He wants to be the star of the show? Let's give him the spotlight. The screen on Arthur's tablet was small, but the betrayal it displayed was life-sized. We sat in his office, the blinds drawn against the afternoon sun, watching a live broadcast of my own destruction. The camera I had hidden in the ficus plant provided a perfect, high-definition view of Marcus's study. The audio from the charger camera was crisp, picking up even the clink of ice against crystal. They were celebrating. Marcus was leaning back in his leather chair, the chair I had bought him for his promotion 3 years ago, with his feet propped up on the mahogany desk. He held a tumbler of amber liquid. It was the Macallan 25, the bottle he saved for special occasions. Tara was sitting on the edge of the desk, swinging her legs. She was still wearing my peach silk robe. Seeing it shimmer under the office lights made my skin crawl, a physical sensation of revulsion that started at the back of my neck and spread down my spine. To the auditors, Marcus toasted, raising his glass to the empty room. May they be blind, deaf, and dumb. Tara giggled, clinking her glass against his. You really think they won't notice the transfer date? Babe, I'm the CFO, Marcus said, his voice dripping with arrogance. I control the narrative. I moved the funds from Elena's inheritance into the consulting services shell account, then routed it back into the general ledger as a vendor refund. By the time they look at the balance sheet tomorrow morning, the hole is plugged. The $500,000 deficit? Gone. Replaced by your cousin's retirement fund. God, you're smart, Tara purred. She leaned down and kissed him. It was a long, sloppy kiss. I watched, my hand covering my mouth to stifle a sob that wanted to escape. It wasn't a sob of sadness anymore, it was a sob of pure shock. Hearing him admit the mechanics of the crime so casually, it was monstrous. And Elena? Tara asked, pulling away. What if she actually gets a lawyer? Marcus laughed. It was a deep, guttural sound. With what money? I froze the joint accounts an hour ago. I flagged them for suspicious activity. Even if she walks into a bank, they won't give her a dime without my authorization. She's on the street, Tara. She's probably at a shelter right now, eating soup with a plastic spoon. She looked terrible, Tara said, twirling a strand of her hair. That eye. Marcus, you really clocked her. She wouldn't let go of the phone, Marcus said, shrugging. I didn't want to hit her. She made me do it. You know how she is. She nags. She clings. She's like a leech. I had to shake her off. She's going to play the victim, Tara said. Let her, Marcus replied. I've already sent emails to the board, to our friends, even to her old knitting circle. Subject line, concern for Elena. I told them she's had a psychotic break following Nana's death. I told them she's paranoid, violent, and refusing medication. By tomorrow, if she tries to tell anyone I stole her money, they'll just look at her with pity and call the men in white coats. I felt Arthur's hand on my shoulder. I hadn't realized I was shaking until I felt his steady grip. We have it, Arthur whispered. That's wire fraud. That's embezzlement. That's admitting to spousal abuse. We have it all. Wait, I whispered back, my eyes glued to the screen. There's more. On the screen, Marcus stood up. He walked over to the safe in the corner, the one hidden behind the painting of the ship Storm. I knew the combination was his birthday, but he had changed it recently. I watched closely as his fingers moved over the keypad. 4. 8. 2. 0. My Nana's birthday. April 8, 1920. The irony hit me like a physical blow. He used my grandmother's birthday to lock away the secrets he stole from her granddaughter. The safe beeped open. Marcus reached inside and pulled out a black ledger. Not the digital one I had found, but a physical book. This, Marcus said, waving the book at Tara, is the insurance policy. If Sterling ever tries to throw me under the bus, I take everyone down with me. Every bribe the CEO paid to the zoning commission, every kickback from the construction contracts, it's all in here. Why don't you burn it? Tara asked. Because leverage is power, Marcus grinned. He tossed the book back into the safe and slammed it shut. And right now, I have all the power. I have the money, I have the girl, and I have the career. Elena is nothing. She's a ghost. He pulled Tara into his lap. Now, let's forget about her. I bought you something with the leftover cash from her account. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Tara squealed. He opened it to reveal a diamond tennis bracelet. Oh my God, Marcus. It cost $5,000, he said. Consider it a severance package from your cousin. I turned the tablet off. The room was silent. The hum of the air conditioner seemed deafening. He bought her a bracelet, I said, my voice hollow. With my Nana's money. While I was washing blood off my face in a laundromat. Arthur stood up and walked to the window, peering out through the blinds. He looked furious. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. Elena, he said, turning back to me. We aren't just going to sue him. We are going to bury him. The Gala, I said again. He mentioned the zoning commission bribes. Mr. Sterling keeps his hands clean, but if he knows Marcus is keeping a black book on him, Sterling will destroy him to save himself. Exactly, Arthur said. Sterling is a shark, but he has a code. He hates loose ends. And Marcus just admitted he is the biggest loose end in the company. We need that book, I said. No, Arthur corrected. We need the police to find that book. If you take it, it's theft. If the police find it during a raid prompted by credible evidence of embezzlement, it's a smoking gun. So the plan remains the same, I said. We crash the party. We don't just crash it, Arthur said, his eyes gleaming. We hijack it. But you need to be prepared, Elena. Tomorrow morning, the war starts. He sent those emails. He's going to isolate you. Before we get to the Gala, you are going to feel like the loneliest person on earth. I've been lonely for 20 years, Arthur, I said, touching the bruise on my face. I just didn't know it until now. Arthur was right. The isolation came with the sunrise. I woke up on the couch in Arthur's office. He had insisted I stay there for safety. The first thing I did was check my phone. It had exploded. But not with support. 17 missed calls. 30 text messages. I opened the first one from Sarah, my best friend of 10 years. Elena, Marcus emailed us. I'm so worried about you. Please, honey, just go home. He wants to help you get into a clinic. Don't throw your life away over a mental episode. A mental episode. I opened the next one from my aunt, Tara's mother. How dare you attack Marcus? After everything he's done for our family? Tara told me you were off your meds. If you hurt my daughter, I will call the police myself. They had spun the web so tight, so fast. Then came the official blow. A courier arrived at Arthur's office at 9 a.m. sharp. He handed me a thick envelope. Temporary restraining order. Plaintiff, Marcus Thorne. Defendant, Elena Thorne. Allegations, domestic violence, erratic behavior, threats of self-harm, financial theft. He accused me of theft? I laughed, a dry, hysterical sound. He stole $200,000 from me and accused me of theft? Arthur scanned the document. He claims you transferred the money to a third party to hide it during a manic episode. He's projecting everything he did onto you. It's classic narcissism. Darvo, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. It says I can't come within 500 feet of him, the house, or his workplace, I read. If I go to the Gala tonight, I'll be arrested. Arthur looked at me over his glasses. The Gala is at the Sterling Hotel. It's private property, not his workplace. And technically, until you are served by a sheriff, you can claim ignorance, though this courier complicates that. However. He paused, tapping his pen on the desk. However? The order says you cannot contact him. It doesn't say you cannot attend a public event where he happens to be. It's risky. If he sees you, he calls the cops. They arrest you for violating the order. You spend the night in jail while he drinks champagne. So how do we do this? We make sure that by the time he sees you, it's too late for him to call anyone, Arthur said. And we make sure you aren't there to contact him. You are there to speak to Mr. Sterling. I spent the rest of the day in a fugue state. I couldn't buy coffee, my cards were declined. Card reported stolen, the barista had said, looking at me suspiciously. I had to borrow $20 from Arthur just to buy a sandwich. That feeling of financial paralysis is terrifying. It's not just about not having money, it's about losing your agency. I was a 45-year-old woman who had to ask another man for lunch money because my husband decided I didn't exist anymore. Around noon, I tried to call Sarah back. I needed one ally. Just one female friend to say, "I believe you." It went straight to voicemail. Then, a text, "Please don't contact me until you're stable, Elena. It's too upsetting." I sat in the corner of the office and stared at the wall. The silence was heavy. I realized then that Marcus hadn't just stolen my money. He had stolen my history. He had taken 20 years of friendships, family dinners, and shared secrets, and twisted them into a narrative of my insanity. I looked at the bruise in the mirror. It was turning a sickly yellow-green at the edges, the center still a deep, angry purple. "They think I'm crazy," I whispered to my reflection. "They think I'm weak." I thought about the tennis bracelet on Tara's wrist. I thought about the black book in the safe. I wasn't weak. I was just waking up. "Arthur," I said, turning around. "I need a dress." "A dress?" Arthur looked up from his legal pads. "Elena, you have no money." "I have a store credit," I remembered. "At Neiman Marcus. A return I made last month. It's on a physical gift card in my wallet." He couldn't freeze that. Arthur checked his watch. "The gala starts at 7 o'clock. You have 4 hours. I need to look like I belong," I said. "If I walk in looking like a victim, they'll treat me like one. If I walk in looking like a queen, they'll hesitate. And that hesitation is all the time I need." "Go," Arthur said. "I'll prep the digital evidence. I'll meet you at the hotel entrance at 7:15. Don't be late." "And Elena?" I stopped at the door. "Don't let them see you bleed." The department store was quiet. I walked through the aisles of silk and chiffon, feeling like an imposter. My clothes were wrinkled. My hair was pulled back in a severe bun to hide the grease. The sales associate, a young woman with perfectly winged eyeliner, looked at me with open skepticism. "Can I help you find the clearance rack?" she asked, her tone dripping with polite condescension. "No," I said, pulling the gift card from my wallet. It had $800 on it. "I need an evening gown. Black. Size 6. And I need it to fit like armor." She blinked. "Armor?" "Something structured," I clarified. "Something that says I'm not here to play." She brought me 3 dresses. The first was too frilly. The second was too revealing. The third was perfect. It was a floor-length black crepe gown with a sharp, architectural neckline and long sleeves. It was modest, but it hugged my body in a way that made me look taller, stronger. It was a dress for a funeral, or an execution. I put it on in the dressing room. I looked at myself. For years, Marcus had chosen my clothes. He liked pastels. He liked soft fabrics. He liked me to look approachable and sweet. In this black dress, I didn't look sweet. I looked dangerous. I paid with the gift card. The balance was 0. Just like my bank account. I went to the cosmetic counter next. I used the sample testers because I couldn't afford to buy new makeup. I applied foundation, contour, mascara. Then, I came to the bruise. The saleswoman approached me, holding a stick of heavy-duty concealer. "Honey, we have a color corrector for that. Orange cancels out blue. We can hide it completely." I held the concealer in my hand. I looked at the mirror. Hiding it was what I had done for 3 days. Hiding it was what Marcus wanted. He wanted the perfect wife, the perfect life, the perfect lie. If I covered it, I was protecting him. No, I said, handing the concealer back. I don't want to hide it. But, it's for a party? She asked, confused. It's for a statement, I replied. I applied my makeup around the bruise. I darkened my eyeliner. I put on a deep crimson lipstick, a color Marcus hated because he said it made me look hard. When I stepped out of the mall, the sun was setting. The sky was bleeding purple and orange, matching the canvas of my face. Arthur was waiting in his battered sedan. When I got in, he didn't say a word. He just nodded. It was a nod of respect. Ready? He asked. I'm terrified, I admitted, my hands clenching the satin fabric of the dress. My heart is beating so fast I feel like I might pass out. What if they stop me at the door? What if Marcus drags me out? Then we make a scene, Arthur said calmly. We have the USB. I have a copy in my pocket. You have a copy in your clutch. If they stop you, I scream. If they stop me, you run. Okay, I breathed. We run. The drive to the Sterling Hotel took 20 minutes. Every red light felt like an eternity. I closed my eyes and replayed the video in my head. She's a ghost. I wasn't a ghost. I was the haunting. We pulled up to the valet. The line of cars was a parade of wealth. Bentleys, Mercedes, Porsches. I saw Marcus's car near the front, the new Porsche he bought with the bonus. Arthur parked the sedan among the luxury vehicles. The valet looked confused, but Arthur flashed a $20 bill, his own money, and the kid took the keys. We stood on the sidewalk. The air was cool. The music from the ballroom drifted out. Remember, Arthur whispered. You are not Elena the victim. You are Elena the witness. You are the only person in that room who knows the truth. I'm ready, I said. I took his arm. We walked up the grand staircase. My heels clicked against the marble, a sharp, rhythmic countdown to the end of Marcus Thorne's life. Entering the ballroom was like stepping into a different atmosphere. The air was thinner, colder, and scented with expensive lilies and ambition. I bridged the gap between the entrance and the stage. The security guard, the one I had bypassed in my memory earlier, was real now. He was a wall of muscle named Steve according to his badge. Mrs. Thorne? Steve asked, stepping in front of me. Mr. Thorne left instructions. He said you weren't well enough to attend. Mr. Thorne is a liar, Steve, I said softly. And unless you want to be named in a federal obstruction of justice lawsuit, I suggest you step aside. It was a bluff. Mostly. But I delivered it with the icy conviction of a woman who had nothing left to lose. Steve hesitated. In that split second of hesitation, I walked past him. The room opened up. The Part 1 moment was happening now. The whisper started like a ripple in a pond. Heads turned. I saw the faces of people I had known for years, wives I had hosted for brunch, husbands who played golf with Marcus. Is that Elena? Look at her face. I heard she went crazy. Is she drunk? I kept my chin high. I fixed my eyes on the stage. Marcus was there, holding court. Tara was glowing beside him. They looked like royalty. The king and his consort. I saw Sarah, my best friend, sitting at table 4. She saw me. Her eyes went wide. She started to stand up, then looked at Marcus, then looked back at me, and sat down. She looked away, pretending to adjust her napkin. That hurt more than the punch. The cowardice of it. I walked past her table. Hello, Sarah, I said. She flinched. Elena, you shouldn't be here. You blocked my number, I said, not stopping. Make sure you unblock it tomorrow. You'll want to hear how this ends. I reached the VIP section. This was the fire. Marcus saw me. The freeze. The shock. The get out mouthing. I felt a surge of adrenaline so powerful it made my vision sharpen. Every detail was hyperreal. The sweat beading on Marcus's upper lip. The way Tara's hand clawed into his tuxedo jacket. Security. Marcus's voice cracked. He abandoned the microphone and rushed to the edge of the stage. Get her out of here. She's dangerous. 2 guards started moving toward me from the sides. I stopped. I was 10 feet from the CEO's table. Mr. Sterling was watching me with a frown. He was a man of old money, a man who valued order. A scene like this was his nightmare. Mr. Sterling. I called out. Elena? Sterling stood up. He looked at Marcus, then at me. What is the meaning of this? She has a knife. Tara shrieked from the stage. It was a desperate, stupid lie. She said she was going to kill us. The crowd gasped. People scrambled back from me. I slowly raised my hands. I held only the manila envelope. No knife, I said, my voice steady. Just receipts. She's lying. Marcus yelled, jumping off the stage. He was coming for me. His eyes were wild. Don't listen to her. She's off her meds. He was 5 feet away. He reached for me. Arthur stepped in. My 65-year-old attorney, with his bad back and his cheap suit, stepped between me and the raging bull that was my husband. Touch her, Arthur said, his voice low and dangerous, and I will have you arrested for assault in front of 300 witnesses. Again. Marcus skidded to a halt. He looked at Arthur, then at the crowd. He realized the optics. He couldn't hit a woman and an old man at his own gala. Mr. Sterling, I said, using the pause. My husband embezzled $500,000 from this company. He stole my inheritance to cover it up. And he has a ledger in his safe detailing every illegal bribe you've ever paid. The silence that followed was absolute. Mr. Sterling's face went gray. That's insane, Marcus laughed, but it sounded breathless. She's hallucinating. A ledger? Bribes? It's pure fantasy. Is it? I challenged. I turned to Arthur. Play it. Arthur lifted his hand. He held a remote control. He had hacked into the AV system 10 minutes ago while I was distracting the front desk. It was a simple Bluetooth override. Marcus had cut costs on the hotel's security package last year. Another one of his savings. The giant projection screen behind the stage, which had been displaying the Sterling Corp logo, flickered. Static. Then, the image resolved. The image was giant. 30 feet high. It showed Marcus's study. The timestamp was yesterday. The audio boomed through the concert-quality speakers of the ballroom. To the auditors. May they be blind, deaf, and dumb. The crowd gasped. A collective intake of breath that sucked the oxygen out of the room. On screen, Marcus clinked glasses with Tara. I moved the funds from Elena's inheritance into the consulting services shell account. I watched the real Marcus. He was frozen. He looked tiny standing in front of his giant, confessing self. He looked like a bug pinned under a microscope. Tara put her hands over her mouth. She was shaking her head, backing away, bumping into the drum kit on stage. The video cut to the safe. This is the insurance policy. Every bribe the CEO paid, every kickback. Mr. Sterling's expression shifted from shock to a cold, predatory fury. He looked at Marcus. If looks could kill, Marcus would have been incinerated. Turn it off. Marcus screamed. He ran toward the AV booth. Cut the feed. Cut it. But the technician was too stunned to move. Or maybe he hated Marcus too. Most people did. The video continued. Elena is nothing. She's a ghost. Then, the final clip. The one Arthur had added at the end. The footage from Mrs. Whitman's porch camera across the street from 3 days ago. The rain. Marcus dragging me out the door. The punch. The shove. Me lying in the mud. You tripped, the on-screen Marcus said. You're clumsy. The video ended. The screen went black. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then, Mr. Sterling spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of a guillotine blade. Call the police. No. Marcus fell to his knees. Mr. Sterling, please. It's a deepfake. It's AI. She made it up. She's trying to frame me. I recognize my own ledger, Marcus, Sterling said coldly. And I recognize a rat when I see one. Sterling turned to his head of security. Secure him. And secure the girl. Security guards swarmed the stage. They grabbed Tara. She started screaming, I didn't do anything. He made me. I didn't know. They grabbed Marcus. He fought. He swung at a guard, connecting with a jaw. That's assault on an officer, someone yelled. I stood there, watching. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I just felt a heavy weight lifting off my chest, layer by layer. Marcus was pinned to the ground. His face was pressed against the red carpet, distorted and red. He locked eyes with me one last time. There was no arrogance left. Only terror. Elena, he pleaded, his voice cracking. Elena, tell them. Tell them we can fix this. Baby, please. I walked over to him. I stood over him, looking down at the man who had controlled my life for 20 years. I can't help you, Marcus, I said softly. I'm just a ghost. Remember? The sirens were already wailing outside. The next few hours were a blur of flashing lights and official statements. The police arrived. The FBI arrived, thanks to the mention of wire fraud and federal embezzlement. I gave my statement in a private room at the hotel. I handed over the USB drives. I handed over the digital ledger I had downloaded. Marcus was denied bail. The flight risk was too high, and the evidence was overwhelming. Tara was released pending investigation, but her life was over. The video of her mocking me while wearing my robe went viral before the night was over. Someone at the gala had live-streamed the screen. She was fired from her job the next morning. Her social media was flooded with hate. She had wanted to be famous. Now she was infamous. Mr. Sterling approached me as I was leaving the hotel at 2 a.m. Mrs. Thorne, he said. He looked tired. I owe you an apology. You owe me a lot more than that, I said. Your company's lack of oversight allowed my husband to steal my life savings. We will make you whole, he said quickly. The $200,000 will be wired to you tomorrow. Along with a consulting fee. For exposing the security flaw. And the black book? I asked. Sterling paused. The police have it. Whatever is in there. I will face it. Unlike your husband, I know when the game is up. I respected that. A little. Arthur drove me back to my house. It was a crime scene now, taped off, but the police allowed me in to sleep. I walked into the quiet house. I saw the spilled wine on the carpet. I saw the mud Marcus had tracked in. I sat on the sofa where Tara had sat. I picked up the peach robe she had left on the floor. I walked to the fireplace. I lit a match. I watched the silk burn. It curled and blackened, turning into ash. I didn't feel happy. Revenge isn't sweet, not really. It tastes like copper and adrenaline. But I felt clean. I felt like the infection had been cut out. 1 year later. I am sitting on the balcony of a small apartment overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It's not a mansion. It's small, tidy, and mine. Marcus is 6 months into a 15-year sentence at a federal penitentiary. He pleads guilty to avoid a longer sentence. He writes me letters sometimes. I don't open them. I put them in a box labeled the past. Tara moved back to her parents' house in Ohio. We don't speak. My aunt tried to reconcile us, saying family is family, but I told her that family doesn't steal your future. I set a boundary, and I kept it. I used the money, the inheritance plus the consulting fee from Sterling, to start a business. It's a forensic accounting firm specifically for women going through high-conflict divorces. I help women find the money their husbands try to hide. I call it the Nana Rose Agency. Arthur is my partner. He complains about the ocean air rusting his joints, but I catch him smiling more often than not. I look in the mirror. The bruise is long gone. There isn't even a scar. But I remember it. I remember the pain every time a client walks into my office with sunglasses on a cloudy day. I know, I tell them. I know you're scared. I know you think you're weak. And then I tell them my story. I tell them about the rain. The punch. The emptiness of the bank account. But mostly, I tell them about the dress. The black dress. And the moment I decided to stop being a victim and start being a witness. If you are listening to this, and you feel trapped. If you feel like someone has taken your voice, your money, or your dignity. Listen to me. They only have power because you are silent. They bank on your shame. They bet on your fear. Don't let them win. Find your evidence. Find your Arthur. Put on your armor. And walk into the fire. Because the only thing waiting for you on the other side is yourself.